The Sandman is on Netflix today, and I wanted to give you my short but sweet review of the new series based on Neil Gaiman's epic comic book series. I have to say, I really am amazed that it's taken this long for the series to become a reality because the stories are so iconic. I've known about the comic book series since I was a teenager, and I know enough that going in I kind of knew some of the basics. Especially because I had so many friends who were huge fans in university. The thing is that this captures that concept in such a unique way, and it caught me from the very first episode how much I was enjoying this whole concept. So essentially the story is about Morpheus, and he's played by Tom Sturridge in the series. Morpheus is the Sandman, the master of the dreaming, and the place where people go when they sleep. Morpheus ends up being captured by some occultists a long time ago, about 100 years ago. And they end up taking him in and trying to get death. And in the end, they get Morpheus instead, kind of by mistake. And the series is the repercussions of that event from both Morpheus' side of things, his family, which includes death, desire, despair, and then what happens after that. And it's a fascinating story. I love the way it's been told. The series has such a unique style. It's essentially a fantasy series in a small way, but it feels much more like a drama. It reminds me of almost nothing else that I can think of. And so each episode is basically a one-act play. And it's such a unique format because what ends up happening then is you get episode 1 is this event or this character, this person. Episode 2 is then the next character or person. And then the whole series strings them together through dreams, better known as Morpheus, through his experience. And it's fascinating to see the way the stories connect and how they've brought these characters together. I love the one-act play structure for this because it brings a very different feel to the series from anything else. And so the only flaw that I had with the entire series, the only problem I had was that episode 1 feels a lot more like it's explaining and setting up a lot of things. And it does it a bit heavy-handed compared to the rest of the series. Episode 2 and 3, it flows so much more perfectly. So I would say that you're going to have to watch into episode 3 to really get a feel for what the series is, how it's going to go, everything else. But other than that, I loved it. And I think you can really feel Neil Gaiman's, fingerprints all over this. You can feel what he has brought to the story, how he worked with the executive producers and the rest of the team to basically turn this into a series. And that's no small feat considering how challenging the comic book was in comparison to the story. The only other thing I'm going to mention is the fact that episode 5 is fascinating to me because it is unlike most of the rest of the series. So a couple of the later episodes touch on it again, but basically there's a horror element to episode 5 that is incredibly well done, and I really appreciate the way it was done, but I will say that it feels slightly different from everything else before and after it, but it has this fantastic conclusion, and it sets up the second half of the season, where you can kind of feel like episode 1 through 5 is kind of the first part of the story, whereas episode 6 to 10 has this completely different feel, some different characters come in, and it's amazing. And finally, I have to talk about, the cast. The cast is amazing. Tom Sturridge as Morpheus is fantastic. He brings such a somber quality to the character that you'd expect, especially if you know the comic books. Death is amazing, Lucien, everyone. But one of my favorite scenes is a moment when Morpheus goes to meet Lucifer Morningstar, played by Gwendoline Christie. And you'll know Gwendoline Christie if you watch Game of Thrones. She is phenomenal in this series. There's literally just a couple scenes with her, but the one big one between Morpheus and Lucifer is phenomenal, and it's the best part of the whole season, I would say. It's visceral, it's amazing. In my interview, you'll hear Tom talk about working with Gwendoline and what he felt she brought to that scene and everything else. So definitely watch that interview if you're curious about that scene or you're a Gwendoline Christie fan. But on top of that, just fantastic acting, fantastic moment in the series. So I'm really blown away. I hope we're going to get a second season of The Sandman. I can't fathom why we wouldn't. It opens so many doors to other stories, and there's so much still that could be told in this universe. It's fantastic to see Neil Gaiman's storytelling come to TV in this way, because I feel like he has so many huge stories to tell and could be told in such unique ways, and there just hasn't been the chance to see anything like that yet. He's got phenomenal books that I think we're still just going to see the best yet to come in what his stories can do on TV. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the series. I hope you agree with me, but if you do or don't agree on my review, please feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. Tell me what your favorite scenes in the series were once you've watched it all. And yeah, enjoy. Thank you so much for watching.